Hey, welcome back to Jameson's Repair Shop. Right where we left off almost from the last video. Not a lot of movement around in this shop. There's not a lot of space right now with my wife's car in here. So what I have the flange that we talked about at the end of the last video. I put the panel, just set it back on the car for now, out of the way. But I want to put the jig back on the fender skirt. Alright, I got her all mounted and clamped. And I started doing the trimming, and I forgot to turn the camera on. Well, there you go. So what I did, I took my grinder and I just made little slits all along. I put tape on here first, though it didn't save me all the way, because I cut into it a couple spots. I got to be very careful with that, or I'll be fixing that fender skirt up. So it's really not an easy spot to put this. Anyway, so I'm just taking my air grinder and I'm just leveling it out, and then I'll fit it on the new patch panel. So that's what I'm doing right now, and nothing too exciting. So I'll continue on with it. So that's what I'm doing. I'll just keep going around, and this is not the final cut on that, but I'm now just honing it in finally. So the idea is the new patch panel would fit flush with the fender skirt as if it was on the car. So this is going to have to be just 18 mil below the surface. So I'm just doing a rough cut here. I put some clecos in. Got the clecos all the way around, and I laid the fender skirt right down in place. These aligned with the grooves, because we know that they were built off of this fender skirt. And then I took my scribe and I just went around this one here. I didn't scribe it here because this is bent out too far. But anyway, we'll fix that in as we go. And then I just took my scribe and went around, actually holding it down a little better than I just was. Little scribe like that. These are, probably get these at Harbor Freight. I got it at Princess Auto up here, so probably Harbor Freight have them. They're cheap. They're great too, they stay sharp. I was surprised how sharp they actually stay. So I just went around the perimeter. Now that's not the cut line. That's just to find. The cut line is 18 gauge that side of it, but I'm not going to bring it down that low. All I'm trying to do is to get the sheet hole opening big enough so this fender skirt sits down right on top of this, because that's where it needs to be. It needs to be flush. It needs to be flush with this fender skirt on the car. So I've got a nice scribe line around there now. I'll just set this fender skirt aside for now. I don't know if you can see it, but I've got a pretty good scribe line on the patch panel. So there's a fair bit of material that has to come off, but I'm not going to take it all off at once. So I want to double check a few times just to be sure. Because once you cut it, you got to put it back. But I'm going to bring it in probably maybe 1/8 of an inch of the line. That should be more than enough for the fender skirt to sit down in. And see how she goes. There we go. I got that cut out. Rough cut. Not fitting down there like I knew it would, because that needs to be formed properly yet. I'm going to try without the jig in there. I'll put the original gaskets back on before I weld this flange onto the inside. So I'll be welding from the back side to tack this all on, but only after I check to make sure I'm happy with the gap in relation to the original gaskets. And I'll just grab one over here. Where are we? Oh, there's all kinds of them right here. So here's the original gaskets, but here's a piece. So I'll take my jig out, and with the flange on, and I put Clecos in. I think I told you that already. I'm sure I did. And I'll clamp it on with the Clecos with this between the flange and the Clecos. That way it'll be the same as it would be with the fender skirts installed. But that's her. So let me continue on with that. I think it looks pretty good. Well, that was a struggle getting that gasket back on. You would think a little rubber gasket would be easy to deal with, but that probably took a half hour just to get all that switched out. Anyway, it's all part of the game. So you can see how this will sit down. So now that is the actual size, hole size with the gasket. So now you'll see a couple spots. You'll see some spots that are still high that need to be trimmed out, obviously down here. I knew that. And it doesn't have to be perfect as long as I can get a spot of weld on it reasonably. There's some gaps along here. Nothing too serious though, it's not bad. The main thing is don't bring the new patch panel in too far. It has to be level. In order to look right, it has to be level with this part on that side of it. So I have to be careful about trimming stuff down. It may already be far enough, so I'll have to flip it over. Probably tack it, because I don't have any way to hold it now. I'll see. I'll stand it up on, probably put it in the vise again like I had it, and try to fit it that way. And it doesn't matter where this flange is now. Where that skin fits on the fender skirt is the important part now. If the flange has got too big of a gap in it, I'll have to fill it, that's all. Alright, well, she's looking pretty good. What do you guys think? Yeah, she'll soon be a patch panel when that's on there. Well, the fun has started now with this tacking the wheel arch in, the flange on the wheel arch. I got her lined up pretty good. She's running right flush here with the fender skirt. So that's how the fender skirt will fit in. So now I'm going to have to go around this slowly and keep filling it in. And but I'm going to pull that. I think I'm going to pull the fender skirt out because I do have the rubber gasket in there, and I smell a little bit of rubber burn every now and then. So yeah, she's looking pretty good. So I'll get this all welded slowly, and then I'll grind it flush inside here, and then I'll weld the outside and grind it down again. Time-consuming process. But now this panel is really rigid now. Alright, so let me get her done. That wasn't that graceful. Alright, there's the Clecos out. And here we have it. If you can see that or not. We'll put her up on the workbench. See if I can continue welding it. that's pretty much what it's going to look like. Just a slow process, so I'll continue on and I'll check back with you when I get something more done. Well, I got her ground ready for the next set of welds. There's a few spots I need to address. You can't see them here, but I know where they are. One is on this down here on the inside. The lip is a little too far in for the bead for the gasket, and the same on this side. Not much, so I'll just have to split it, probably the thickness of the blade, split it and re-weld it. But that's what I was shooting for. So once that's all welded up, I still have to do welding on the outside and grinding, so any spots that look a little bit odd, like I can see right here, it's a little gappy. I can fill that in and grind it. Or I can split it right there and drop that down some too. But yeah, so that's not bad. There's no fender skirt pins in that. That's just held on with clamps. But that's pretty much against the gasket. Yeah, lots of work to do to it yet, but well, the big job is burning it into the panel itself. That'll take quite a while. First, I want to finish it. But that's what it looks like on the car. Alright, I'm working on the outer part of the wheel arch. And when I'm going around, I'm just tacking every so far apart. And I'm letting it cool down, taking my time. Right there. And you'll see, you see it close, there's where I forgot to have the gas on. So that's what a gasless weld looks like without, when you're not using flux core and your shielding gas is shut off. So that's what it'll look like. So if you're running into that, turn your gas back on. Don't be a fool like me. Anyway, so I'm just going to go, I'm just getting ready to do another pass. And I'll just start filling in between these for now. And then eventually I'll just work my way to join all the beads up. All the spot welds up. Just your typical stitch welding. Alright, let me get at it. Oh yeah, before I get too far. This is the area here that I said was too much gap for this lip that I put in the fender arch. The flange for the fender arch lip. So I'm going to split it down along here and just move it in. I'm not touching this. This will stay the same. So I'll have to split it there again. Run the grinder through and then bring it in and just weld it back in again. Alright, I got it ground up. Rough grind. I put it back on the car. That's opened up there a tiny bit there, but that's because I didn't do the weld. I didn't grind the weld off back there. And the same deal on this side. So it's holding it out, just the thickness of the weld, but that's quick and easy to fix. I never even thought of it at the time. And that's because I haven't ground anything on the back side yet. So this is all pretty much what it's going to look like. There's a little spot right here I might hammer and dolly a tiny bit once I get it ground down. But it just seems to be just a little low right there. Sticks down a little tiny bit. I might be able to grind that some more too. Anyway, the lip is on. I don't know where my pointer is there. The lip is on. I did tighten this lip up a little bit, but it's still a little wide, but the fender skirts will sit where they sit. And as long as the gasket keeps the dirt out, that's the main thing, best as it's going to. So yeah, there's still a little bit of work to the panel, but that, for the most part, that's the arch. This needs to be ground down more. So yeah, a little bit right there too. Looks a little bit sticky outy. But that's her. There's still that, where's my camera? Okay, there's still that piece in there. I think I'm going to wait on that. Because there's quite a bit of work to do with bending that lip over underneath to join with the inner panel. So I'll grind the inside, but I'm not gonna make video of me just grinding the inside. That's just grinding. And after I've done that, I will. I think I'm going to burn it in to the sheet, into the quarter. I'm going to think about it. I want to make sure it's done enough before I made it, actually weld it into the original quarter panel. So I'm not 100% sure yet, but I'm gonna look it over really close. There's no rush on that. Couple of things to fix up, like I said, right there and right down in there. I don't like them. But overall, I think it's pretty good. Alright, well, let me think about it. If I see anything else that you guys might be interested in before I butt weld it in, which I'll be videoing, I'll bring it up and you'll see it in this video. And the inner flange on the wheel well, that's not trimmed back either. So that needs to be all trimmed back. And actually, I think the originals had just a little lip formed on the back side of them, outward. I think it's just to position the fender skirt a little better. I think that's all it was there for, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'm happy with the way it looks now. It's fitting really nice. So I'm going to just grind this weld behind there so it sits down better, and the same here so it sits down better. And then I'm going to cut and butt this panel in place. And I wanted to mention that George, and thanks George, sent me pictures of his original NOS quarter panels, showing where that lid, that piece that indents in for the lid. And thank you, George, for that. I really appreciate it. So anyway, let me get this off, ground, this piece ground down a little bit, and we'll start burning this panel in. So I also want to talk to you about, before I do that, I'm going to take this, once this is burnt in, and hang in there with me, don't get too excited, because you're probably going to think, why in the hell you didn't just do that in the first place? But there's a reason why I did this the way it is, because I needed to capture it in place before I took this quarter panel right off the car. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull this quarter panel off. Once I get this welded in, I'm going to pull the quarter panel off, and then it gives me whole access to in here. But first, before I can pull the quarter panel off, I need to support the inside of the car. And you may see, let me just see if you can see it. Whoops. I'll bring you over here. And you may see what I'm doing already in here. So, what I have is some pipe, 3/4 just black iron pipe, gas line stuff. I'll lower you down a bit. And actually, I'm going to lift you up. And, oh, hang on there. So what I've done, I'm utilizing the mounts for the convertible top where the cylinder goes on. And I built, this is a 3/4 threaded rod and nuts. So I welded a nut to a piece of pipe, but on the angle I need to go up underneath and into the firewall. And you might not see that very well, but it goes up into a pocket in the firewall. And that pocket is the same as that's over here. Yeah, that pocket right there. It fits in there nicely. And I have a cap on the end so it's not pushing a lot of pressure on. And then once I get the other side done the same, I'm going to cross brace the B-pillars, which is this part right here where the doors hook into. Whoa, I got my cameras all wonky here. I'm sitting. Alright, so once I get those pipes in, I'm going to cross brace the B-pillars with this piece of angle iron, if it would just focus on it. I'll cut the angle iron down and I'll tack weld it onto the B-pillars on both sides, and then I'll weld it to the pipe. So that'll give some support from side to side for the pipe, plus it'll support the side to side for the B-pillars here. Because once this is all gone, the only thing holding it then is this brace. And this brace is actually in pretty good shape, even though it doesn't look like it. It is in good shape. And then there's this piece that they put in these convertibles, which I don't believe is on the hardtops. It's not on the one I have for a parts car. There's a cross brace there. But other than that, we have a bunch of rust down here, so there's not a lot holding that B-pillar in place. At the bottom it is for sure, and it seems to be pretty beefy there on this car. So that's what I'm going to do. Hang in there. This is going to take me quite a bit of time to get this burnt in slowly so I don't warp the steel. So I'll probably do some time lapse, but I'm not going to do the whole thing. And definitely not going to video the grinding aspect of it because it's just grinding. But before I pull that panel off, that whole quarter panel, I need to get this done. Whoa, sorry. Anyway, yeah, I think you understand what I'm talking about. All right, I almost forgot to mention a part of the supporting process on this car. Because it is a convertible and there's not a lot of there's no roof strength. I picked up these camper jack stabilizers. Now these are not for lifting. They're not for supporting loads that you're going to get underneath. That's why I'm still going to have these cribs in place. I was thinking about, I think I'll drop them off the cribs, put the cribs solid on the floor all the way around, get the car in a position where it's going to be comfortable to work with. And you may have noticed that I took my hoist, one side of the hoist off, and that gave me more room to work because I'm going to, once I get this all in place and down on the floor, I don't want to move it again until this whole area has been reconstructed, even up into here. Because I'm going to pull that rocker panel off because I need to check the inner structure. This is an outer rocker. That's it does add support, but the main structure of this car is behind that rocker. And I want to make sure it's in good shape, and I want to make sure it's rust treated before I put the rocker back on. Plus this rocker, I know I can salvage it. It needs some work, but I'm pretty sure I can salvage it, or at least I'll have it off as a template to make a new one with. So that's what's going on here. And I don't know if anybody's even noticed the black in here. What I did when I first got this car and I wanted to test this POR 15 out, and that's what that is. That was 3 years ago it's been on there. It still looks pretty good. I know it's a very expensive product, and there's ones that are less expensive on the market that I think that do just as well. But we don't have access to them here in Canada, or at least I don't seem to be able to find them. But I can get POR 15 at my local Canadian Tire. They have a stock of it there. Anyway, that's why that's painted black. And that, like I say, 3 years over the rust, and it hasn't broke out again. I mean, I did wire brush it and sand it before I did do it. That's why it looks pretty nice. Anyway. Getting off topic here. So let me get this quarter panel burnt in. All right, I got set up now to tack this thing in. You'll see now I cut this back to the body line like I said. I got it all clecoed in place. Now you'll see this big gap here. And that is because the new panel has an arch to it and this is fallen in. So it's quite a wide gap. But if you go in here and push it open, or push it out to it, you can close that gap off. So I can't get a clamp up in there, so I can either do it this way and let it pull it out, tack it like that, and let it pull it out, which I think I will because there's enough strain on that. And actually I think that might be a little bit too far out, but if I do this, it'll pull it out. I'm dodging around the tripod here, so I still hook to the camera. So, yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. Just tuck it in. I want to do this first. I may even release. No, I want it where it is. So let me go ahead and do that, and we'll get this tacked in. All right, I've got it tacked in. And now I'm going to start doing the cut and butt to get it down in place. If you want to know more about the cut and butt and the process, there's no better guy to explain it than Tony Fitzpatrick and Fitzy's Fabrications. He doesn't claim to be the inventor of this process, but he certainly has mastered it. So go check him out on the cut and butt, and you'll probably learn more than you will from me. Anyway, that's it. So I'm going to get on this and This is going to be a long, this will take quite a while. This because I need to go very slow. This is at this point right here requires the most patience of it all. Is getting these panels welded in without warping everything up. So now, right now, because I did all this work, I know I'm sure it's cooled off, but I'll be checking it, blowing air on it, just taking my time getting this down in place. There's the gist of cutting butt. Now I have this all tightened up nice, like that. It follows this new arc nicely. So let's see if we can get the old piece out without too much trouble. There she comes. I have to take it out through that way. I think I will. This is the fun part, pulling out the old scrap piece. Where'd it go? There she comes. And they have to cut it half. There she is. There's the piece. There we go. That's the cutting butt. So now, a little floppy, but I mean it doesn't matter. This is what I'm after, this piece here. This floppy I'll look after once I put the edge on and I get the inner piece in. So now I'm going to go ahead and slowly tack all this in, check to make sure there's spots. I feel a spot right there I don't like, so I'll cut it again. Don't be afraid to go back and cut it if you don't like it. Just give it a snip, pull it out with the screwdriver a little bit, do it again. Spot right there I don't like so much, right here. But that's, anyway, there she is, scrap metal. Alright, let me me get at her. I'm not going to video the tacking it all in. It's the same as I did there, except now I'm filling in between the steps. So let me get that done and then I'll get back to you. Well, there now she is. She's all stitch welded in. I'm sure there's spots that need to be touched up. I did the Cleco holes, tack them in. I like the 1/8 the best because it just a quick shot with the welder, opposed to the black ones with the larger hole. They take a little more, which is a risk of you know, distorting your metal. But if you keep it cool, and it's the same process if you were putting on a new quarter panel. Unless you have the whole quarter panel that fits right on like an NOS quarter panel, you're going to still have to do the same thing. There's no different. It's the same process. You still have to stitch weld it in. So there we go. So I'm going to get her cleaned up and I'm going to grind her down and I'll get back to you. Oh, over here, I showed you this already, but it's kind of cool to see it again. It's a nice piece. Right down to clean, good steel now. Yeah, I think that looks pretty sweet. All right, there she is. Welded in and ground up. It's got a little ripple, a couple of little ripples in it to be expected. You'll probably see, I'm not trying to hide anything here, but you'll see a couple of little ripples. The weld will always pull the metal inward. So that's going to have to be, well, I'm going to have to weld it. When I take this quarter panel off, I'll be welding it from the other side anyway. And then I'll have lots of room to hammer and dolly it. But I mean, yeah, there'll be a little tiny bit of filler go over this. But it'll be very minimal. It'll just be a very thin skin. So yeah, so I'm going to call her quits on this video. Try to keep it in the half-hour range, if possible. Next video, we'll be pulling this quarter panel off. But not before we support the vehicle. The vehicle needs to be supported first. And I've already started that process. So I'll throw a few shots of that in too in the next video. Anyway guys, thanks a lot for watching Jameson's Repair Shop. As I tackle this long, arduous journey on building a patch panel. See you in the next one.